On you constant listeners out there in the multiverse, you're listening to the Earth-16 Comics Wire podcast. I am your host, Brian from Earth-16, and in this segment, I'm going to be speaking with Doug Wood, the creator of Project Big Hype. You don't want to miss this. Back to the Earth-16 Comics Wire podcast. I hope you all are doing very awesome. For those of you who are listening or watching the YouTube video, if you like this video, don't forget to hit that like button and also subscribe to the YouTube channel. I appreciate it. And also hit that bell icon to receive the latest content for the Earth-16 Comics Wire YouTube page. Now, for those of you listening to the podcast or listening to the podcast edition, you can find me on most podcast platforms, including Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Google Podcasts. And please shoot me a comment or a review. I welcome any kind of comment as long as you keep it PG, folks. Now, before we get into the podcast, I have an exciting announcement to make. I'm going to be doing several reviews for Mad Cave Studios comic books. So in the coming weeks, I will be posting articles about upcoming comics from Mad Cave. I'm also going to be throwing out several comic book video reviews on the Earth-16 Comics Wire video page. In addition, I'm also going to be having several more guests on the podcast, including Ronnie Lekasifer, the creator of Heaven's Decoded, which is published by Cypher Comics, which should be around the end of February or the first week of March. I'm also going to be having Pat Murphy back on the Comics Wire podcast around the same time. And as the weeks roll by, I'll be announcing more guests. So be on the lookout for that. So, having said that, I will be speaking with Doug Wood on Project Big Hype, which is a manga anthology inspired by the works of Shonen Jump. And pretty much he's promoting the manga project on Kickstarter. And for those of you who are watching the YouTube video, I will have the Kickstarter link placed on the description page of this YouTube video. And for those of you who are listening, you can Google Project Big Hype on Kickstarter, and the link should be able to pop up, and you should be able to check it out and all that. Doug and I had a really awesome chat about manga and also an interesting conversation on villains. So after the break, I'll be chatting with Doug Wood about his comic Project Big Hype. Don't go anywhere, peeps. We'll be right back. You're listening to the Earth-16 Comics Wire podcast. I am your host, Brian from Earth-16. And in this episode, I'm going to be discussing the manga anthology, Project Big Hype, with creator David Wood.
Hello, it's Doug Wood.
Thank
you for having... No worries. There's David's one of the creators, or actually a couple of the creators on the project, so no worries.
That's awesome. How you been doing?
I'm doing really great. How are you doing?
Doing really good. I mean, it's almost Friday, and the weekend's almost here. I can't complain, man. Yeah, so we're going to be discussing Project Big Hype, which is, to me, it looks like it's really awesome. It looks like a manga anthology. It has at the end, it has pictures of creators. It's really awesome.
Yes. It's 300 pages. It's Shonen Jump inspired, so it has a lot of variety of different comics. There's some pictures of creators. Those are the people that kind of jumped on board right away. And I just kind of wanted to honor them for taking me up on this crazy idea because I had no background in this kind of thing. So for them to be like, yeah, let's do it. I just kind of wanted to do something small that says a thank you.
Wow, so you had no background in this thing. That's really interesting. I mean, this looks this looks professionally done. This looks really awesome for someone that's no background.
Yeah, it was crazy because I just kind of reached out to people, and those people had done some things before. So, and I, talked to some people that Stephen Andrew, he did TO Comics. He does a lot of anthologies. I've talked to a bunch of people, and so I kind of tried to prep myself before it, but it was kind of an undertaking because it was my first time.
Yeah, absolutely. This looks really awesome. I was just wondering what got you into the idea of putting together all these all these works of art, all of these graphic novels together in one.
Sure. So being on several comics Discord group, a lot of people keep complain. The comics industry is doing the same things over and over again. Why aren't we trying something new? And a lot of people said, why aren't we trying something like Japan does with manga? You know, just have a bunch of titles together, see if what people like, and see if if it'll work. And so I just like, I'm tired of people talking about it. Let's try doing it. And I was the one that kind of went and did it.
That's an awesome mind. That's really awesome. I mean, at that point, when you hear a lot of people just saying that, oh, we should do this, we should do, like, why aren't they doing this? It's like, you know what, screw it, I'm just gonna do it. That's it. And I think that's where I feel like that's where creativity comes from too. It's just doing it. You know what I mean? You don't even have to think about it. It's like, you know what, I'm just gonna go full on, hit the iron while it's hot, pedal to the metal, just doing it. And it's so funny too, because I did like a last podcast segment with the creator of the Beowulf series. And he very much just inspired me to like tell me just to create my own comic, because that's what I'm planning on doing right now. So yeah, just that whole inspiration of just wanting to like create the especially when you have that itch and you can't ignore it. It's like it's a calling almost, in a sense.
Right. There's a point where it's just stuck in your head, and if it kind of just keeps repeating itself in your head, there's a point where you're just like, okay, I gotta get it down and out of my brain. Even if it's no good, it's down and it's out of my brain, and then you can kind of refine it. But just getting it out of your brain, if it's constantly like there, that's kind of the itch, that's kind of the drive to kind of want to do something. So
yeah, and like in my last segment too, like we talked about like just the process, and it's amazing too, because like the creator of the Beowulf series, like he just told me like I think I remember his let me see, because like he actually wrote like the entire script, and for a while it was like a mini series of like 12 comics, but then it came down to 6, and he had several creators help him create it and all that, and take a look at it. And yeah, a lot of times it's just I feel like it's just doing it. Yeah, and like if you look at his work too, it's really amazing, and he's doing a Kickstarter on it too as well. And
is he? I'll take a look at that one.
Actually, matter of fact, I think I have it right here. My computer's so slow sometimes. Let's see.
While you're doing that, let me pitch the book a little bit for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's 300 pages. It's all completed. Actually, I actually got the printed copy right here to test it out to make sure it looked okay. 300 pages. It's all done. We have about 24 stories in here. No, it's definitely 24 stories. 24 stories in here. There's about 72 creators. I kind of lost count because there's so many of us. Really, we're just looking to meet the goal so I can afford to print a ton of these and send them out to people. And I'm really hoping we can do that, because if we keep going past the goal, I'm even telling people that I keep none of the money we make past the goal. It all goes to the creators. So make me pay the creators to do the book, and I think that'd be really great.
Absolutely, yeah. So like pretty much the creator of the Beowulf miniseries, yeah. So he was like pretty much the same way, just writing down this comic. His name is Grant. There it goes, Grant. It just came. I found it. Yeah, Grant. He was the one who created the comic for Beowulf, and so like what you're doing right now with this with this 300-page anthology, I think that's really awesome. Just totally. I think that's amazing, and doing like an American equivalent to Shonen Jump and all that.
Thank you.
Actually, speaking of which,
other people like it.
I'm a huge. I actually did talk to a manga artist previously in a couple episodes ago, talking about it's called Omega Black. That was like another manga that he's doing, and it was about like a hero from another planet that's like going through kind of similar to Superman and like what happened to Krypton.
Right.
Like that was another interesting manga. That's another one I would take a look at as well. But I have like these right here, kind Captain Ken
Those look
from.
really nice.
Oh yeah, Osamu Tezuka. He's one of yeah, I love his works. It's really a really awesome story. I try to read these like every year, and it's just an amazing story of like how people, it's about this kid who comes to Mars, which is colonized by obviously the Earthlings, which I mean, to be fair, it doesn't look like it's gonna it doesn't look like that's far from happening, because I mean, people have been talking about colonizing Mars,
Right.
But yeah,
I've heard about a lot of his stories. I didn't know he did this book called Captain Ken. I mean, I got to add that to the list and look that up. That's really cool.
He did Captain Ken along with Astro Boy, and
Astro Boy, yeah.
Yeah, the one of the things
Phoenix
I like
and some other ones. Yeah,
yeah,
there's lots of
lots of good stuff. And the thing I like about Tezuka's work is just that he has like reoccurring characters sort of take on these different roles. Kind of like the star system. Like you have the character of Lamp, who's usually kind of like a villain, and then you have like another character who's sort of like the anti-hero. And yeah. So I thought that was really interesting, like how with manga it's so different, that fact that they have the star system, I feel, and a lot of times they have like there's some realistic art too, as mentioned in Scott McCloud's book. I always talk about Scott McCloud's book a lot, but how they have like if you go up close in a comic scene, for instance, like of a sword, for instance, it looks kind of cartoony though, but then when you take a close look at it, it's like epic, for instance. Right. So that's what I like about manga in Tezuka's style, or the Japanese style.
Yeah, he has a lot of detail in it. It's crazy. Oh man, what is that one that I really like? Where the guy has, I think it's Tezuka. He's missing like his arms and legs because his parents sold him to like the devil or the demon, like a demon. The level of detail in that is just absolutely insane. I feel like it's called like, or no, I don't know. I don't want to get it wrong.
But that sounds a lot like Tezuka's art. I mean, or his style, and like
right. The characters will be very cartoony, but if you look at the backgrounds and some of the stuff, oh man, it's so gorgeous, and just like you said, like the sword, like it can be just exquisite and a lot of really incredible details. It's just a really cool blending.
And like the interesting thing about Japanese manga, I noticed, is just that they're unlike the American comics. I mean, American comics are great, obviously, but with the Japanese comics, they kind of push the envelope a little bit, I've noticed. Or that's like with anime too. You see some stuff that you would not even think of seeing in a cartoon or a comic book, unless of course if it's like a label like DC Black Label or an adult comic, But even with the Japanese, it's just like it just pushes the envelope, I feel. Yeah, and like they explore like stuff about just about anything really, like sexuality, just it really pushes the envelope, or like like really serious stuff, I feel.
Yeah, I really appreciate the variety you can find.
Oh yeah. And so with this anthology, how'd you gather so many creators? Like, did you just like contacted them one day and like asked them like, hey, would you like to do like a manga anthology? Or
some of that was kind of like that. I started out kind of joking around, going, I got this big thing, I got this big secret thing I'm working on, and some people kind of started messaging me going, what is it, and I kind of just threw it their way. And then I kind of also started DMing some random creators, and they said, yeah, this sounds great. It's because I wanted to get some people that were already established and pair them with people that hadn't already done comics before, and just giving people, that haven't really done comics, a chance. So that was kind of also the basis of this thing. So after I got kind of a solid creators that we could use as like the anchors, then I just kind of let it more wider base, like, hey, who wants to submit to this? And I opened it up to a portal, and we had like over 100 submissions, and it was just like, it was only open for like a couple weeks, and I didn't really advertise it that much, so to get that much interest was pretty cool.
Yeah, totally. And I saw, like, actually, funny enough, like when I was reading the anthology, I saw one of my other favorite comic book writers, David Pepose. I've had him on several times on this podcast. Like, I did see his manga, and it's on. Let me see. I believe it's like Reality. What's her name?
Roxy Rewind, yeah.
Roxy
He
Rewind. Yeah.
yeah, he is amazing. He did a Q&A last year, and he's like, ask me anything, and I was joking around going, hey, will you be my senpai? And he's like, yeah. So I just jokingly,
That sounds
started
like
by
David.
saying, yeah, just like, hey, you wanna help mentor me? And then so after that happened, I was like, hey, I know you were just kidding, but would you want to be in this project? And that's how it kind of got started. He's a really nice guy.
In the Roxy Rewind, the story is really interesting about how she, the character is like born from like, parents of two different generations. Like the father's from the future and the mother's from like the 1950s. I thought that was really interesting, and it was just like, wow. And how she uses her abilities to like rewind time to become a superhero, and like she has like a robot companion, kind of like a Booster Gold almost.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man. Jorge Santiago Jr., his longtime contributor, man, he is that art is so amazing. There's so much fluid and energy to the movement in the panel, even though it's like a static medium. You're seeing like a lot of movement. It's really awesome. He's really amazing.
Now, speaking of which, like, I mean, you mentioned movement. Like, how would you describe movement in like the art and all that? Is it kind of like, in a sense, kind of like a flow, or how does it like agree with the narrative in a sense?
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, there's some people that do that. Some people have that ability to just like have that flowing movement, and there are other artists that are like they pick the moment, and it's not necessarily what you think like the action in the moment, but it's the one that sets up the next panel. It's really complicated. Sorry, I'm not really great at answering this question.
That's okay.
It's just really it's an ability, and it's a taste, and it's just a lot of people, it takes a long time to get there. So I'm still kind of really learning it too.
I'm kind of learning too as well. Like, especially, when it comes to like studying more about comics and like also creating them. I mean, you start to kind of like, see like how, I've learned over a couple episodes that I've been doing. Like, I've learned that a lot of times, it's a team effort, with the writer, the artist, the letterer, the penciler, just to basically, make the story flesh out. Like it's like basically, like one can't work without another. It wouldn't be a comic book without each of them. So and that's why I've noticed with comics. It's just that over time, I thought at first it was a one-man show kind of thing, but it's like actually there's a lot of people involved. And
right, it can be a one-man show or a one-woman show.
I mean, it could,
and those can be very interesting because it's the pure, like, thing from their mind, and that's really awesome. But there's also something in the collaboration as well, as seeing two different parts of the same, like, just because I'm writing it this way, it doesn't mean it's the same thing you see in your head and you're going to get it down a different way. And that's why I always really like that collaboration, is just seeing where we kind of intersect or where we don't, and then where they can make it better. And that's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, with this whole, this is really awesome. And like, I think my other favorite, my favorite comic or my favorite manga in this one is The Breakfast Guard. It's kind of like Sailor Moon.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Kelly Lantham, I apologize if I messed up names, but she did an amazing job. I love. I can't really probably get to the page right now really quickly, but it's just it's really fun, It's just like it's not gonna be able to focus, is it? Dang it. Anyways, it's just really like it's funny. It's great art. It's just got that kind of cheesy Sailor Moon quality that I love, and I think she really, pulled it off. And I think people should really try that one out when they get the book, because it's it's one of my favorite ones.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of a cross between Sailor Moon and, like, I was gonna say Scott Pilgrim versus the World.
A little bit, yeah. There is that just kind of like that silly nature, either one through both of them.
Yeah. So, let's see. So, when did you when did you actually start getting into comics?
Creating wise, it's probably been okay. I tried it early, probably around 2010. I went in for a while trying to figure it out. Unfortunately, I did a lot of it on my own. So I was going on to like message boards back when they had message board like comic places. People would tell you how to do things, and I didn't really get involved in the message boards. I just kind of watched what other people were doing, and it's a terrible way. You have to kind of let other people help you, and you have to make friends and stuff like that. So I failed for a long time because I wasn't really doing it. And then in the last, just a little over a year ago, that's when I really tried for real, where I got onto Discord groups, I made friends on Twitter, I got into a community, which has really helped out, is because you're not going to get better if you can't have somebody help you like take a look at what you're doing.
That's what I've learned. Yeah,
if you're in a bubble, you're just going to have like, it's not going to be where you want it to be. At least that's what I'm learning.
Yeah, I mean,
and so yeah, I haven't been doing this very long, but I'm happy with where I'm going so far.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, the whole, just having a community thing, because, like, I learned, when I started, majoring in creative writing, I've learned firsthand that, it's much more so than a commitment, but you do have to, like, you shouldn't be afraid to work with a group of people just to give you ideas, throw suggestions. I mean, I have to admit, if it wasn't for, like, my people in my workshop who are willing to help me out, like, I don't know if I would have done well, or I would have known if I would have, like, really passed the class, because, I was green as grass as a writer. Even though I had the interest to be a writer, I was green. Right. I was like, it's not like, I'm not like Rey in Star Wars, no offense, where I have, like, all this talent all of a sudden, even though I came from nothing, and it's just like, no, like, I need proper training. I need to, like, refine. I need to hone my skills. And it's really cool that you brought that up, how, even with something like this, you have to have, a couple set of eyes, to take a look at your work and to tell you, what's working and what could be improved.
Right.
And,
I know a lot of people get nervous when they first start out. It's like, oh, are these people going to steal my ideas? And in my opinion, is a lot of people have their own ideas. So it's kind of like having kids. You have your own kids, which are your ideas, and other people don't want to raise those kids and ideas, So I feel like most of the time you're not going to run into people who are going to steal your ideas. Just get out there, meet people with the same interest in creating as you, and just have fun with it. That's what's awesome.
Yeah, and with stealing ideas, yeah, people are very likely not to steal your ideas. I mean, that's, if someone did that anyway, it's like, eventually someone will find out.
Proof, yeah.
Because, I mean, look what happened. If you remember, like, there's a story about the creator of Batman, like the real creator of Batman. Now they're saying that Bob Kane did indeed create Batman, though, but there was someone who helped him along the way, and it was Bill Finger. And for a while, Bob Kane took total credit for creating all things Batman. Okay, sure, he did create Batman, though, but the funny story, well, and it's also a sad story, too. The sad story about Bob Kane is just that, yeah, he created Batman, though, but he created Batman as a blonde-haired dude with bat wings and a red shirt and pants.
Yeah.
And...
It wasn't much beyond that.
It wasn't much going on, and Bill Finger came along, and he actually created everything from Batman's costume to his rogues gallery to Robin to Catwoman. And if it wasn't for Bill Finger, I mean, Batman probably wouldn't be where he's at right now. And for almost like half a century, I would say, like, Bob Kane just took sole credit of creating Batman, when in fact it was actually Bill Finger who created Batman also. Right. And for a while, it was highly, it was contested, and like all it took was, it took a lot of, I think actually it took this one guy by the name of Mark Tobel. I forgot his name, but he was a documentary filmmaker, and he decided to make this documentary film based on Bill Finger creating Batman, and that helped actually spur DC to finally put in the comics Batman created by Bob Kane and Bill Finger, when before it just said Batman created by Bob Kane. And there was actually a little radio segment between between Bob Kane and forgot who it was though. But then Bob Kane finally admitted that, yeah, actually I took too much of the credit for creating Batman. It was Bill Finger who helped me out. And
I didn't know he admitted it. That's crazy.
Yeah, in this radio segment, it's like a lost segment, but he did admit to Bill Finger actually creating Batman, and it was just like, dude, and and for a while, Bill Finger's family, and Bill Finger himself too was destitute. I mean, he didn't get anything at all for creating Batman, and but luckily his, he still had a distant relative. I think it was like his granddaughter or something like that, who lived, and then like she became the heir of the Batman, all that. But
awesome.
it took a lot of effort, to get that going, and I think even today there's still some creations are being highly debated, like who really created this, even with Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. Like, did Stan Lee really create the Marvel universe? I mean, God bless Stan Lee, but it's something to ask, or was it all Jack Kirby,
Right, absolutely.
Yeah, so I mean that's it's just one of those things. And one of the things I love about I say this a lot on my podcast too. I mean, the things I love about independent creating is just that it's your creation, it's like you said, no one can really steal it from you. I mean, even though you kind of have that fear, it's like, well, I created this. I'm not gonna have any corporate entity breathe down my back or whatever to tell me how to create this character or how to create the story, or if it has to be like this, or if it has to be like that, or I mean, don't get me wrong, there's always suggestions from a collab though, but my thing is, I like to collab with creators, not people who dress up in like $1,000 suits and ties. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And that was the thing with Image Comics too, was just that they didn't like that, and it's like, who's this, like someone like Todd McFarlane, like who's this executive telling me how to draw Spider-Man? If his webs look like a certain way, I'm going to make his webs look like a certain way, and the fans are going to love it. And sure enough, the fans do like it.
Yeah, right.
So
the eyes can't be this big. It's like,
the eyes too. That was another one, and. Yeah, I even talked to Grant, the creator of the Beowulf series, about this yesterday too, and he was like, "Yeah, man, like and so yeah, like that's one of the things I love about just independent collaborating. It's just it's all creator based. There's no boss man or whatever telling you what to do, and
right,
yeah, and I mean, this is a really amazing anthology. Again, I mean, I'm looking at some of the stuff here, the Breakfast Guard. I've just started to read it too. I mean, I haven't quite gotten through most of it though, but
I don't blame you. Most people I've talked to so far haven't. It's huge, so it takes a long time to get through it.
But it is an amazing anthology. I mean, I have to say,
Thank you.
Yeah, definitely. So, growing up, what were some of your favorite comics or manga?
So growing up, I probably started with like Batman and G.I. Joe.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I also the first comic shop I remember going to as a kid was I was asking for a Venom issue. My
Venom.
parents didn't. Yeah, my parents were like, they don't like me to like the bad guys, so they were like, no, it's just Spider-Man in a black suit, like trying to lie to say like it's a good guy. No, it's okay.
You kind of had to do like a little
like, big green grotesque tongue coming out of
his mouth, doing that,
Yeah. So I read a lot of the Image stuff. I just 90s kid, so I just liked a lot of that action board stuff at the time.
Yeah, I remember the Spider-Man animated series and watching Venom for the first time. Like I mean, I thought the black suit Spider-Man was pretty cool, but then when he started to like look in the reflection, it was like, oh crap, you know. And then when Eddie Brock got his hands on the symbiote, that was just that was like, oh man. But it was so cool. Venom was actually one of my first villains that I started to like. I'm like, this guy is actually pretty cool. I mean,
Yeah.
like he's a real bad dude, you know.
Yeah.
And
it's funny how many people got in because of a Spider-Man cartoon. You just getting that first taste is from that cartoon, and they couldn't even you couldn't even really throw like punches or kicks like that land, and they still got creative with it, and people still loved that cartoon and got into comics through that. That's pretty awesome.
yeah, and I remember actually reading my first motion comic. It was like around the time where you grew up in the '90s. You know how AOL was back then when when you started up, it was like yeah. Like that's I read my first motion comic on the internet of Spider-Man, and it showed like how there was this one issue where he was fighting Venom, and then like I heard the sounds and all that. I heard Spider-Man getting knocked out by Venom, and like Venom just throwing him around and like hitting him like head first on the it's like, oh. But that was actually that was like I was like, what, this dude's actually pretty cool. And just with Eddie Brock in general, like how he becomes an anti-hero, I mean, and I think with villains for the most part, like I don't know if there's even such a thing as a supervillain necessarily. I mean, unless if you're like, if the villain's like purely evil, like Thanos, or like Darkseid, or like Emperor Palpatine.
Right.
Like for instance, like we talked about Venom, like how he became an anti-hero. I also I talked to a lot of people about Negan. He's one of my favorite villains from The Walking Dead. Just brandishing his baseball bat, and it's so ironic because Negan, at first I didn't like him, of course. He was just like, oh, this guy. And and the sad thing was just that he bashed Glenn, who happened to be my favorite character on The Walking Dead. He bashed his skull. Really? It was just like, no, and just like he did in the comics. But then over time, like I started to actually, it's like, this guy's actually not that bad. Like even when I read the comics, I was like, he's actually not a bad, he's a bad dude though, but he's not like pure evil.
Right.
He's like, if you read the comics or if you even watched the show, the thing about Negan is just that he's pretty chivalrous. He's actually, he has some chivalry, and especially when this one guy was about to mess with a woman, he was Negan was just like, you're not going to do that, like we don't do that, man. And like he even served his own brand of justice by like killing the guy, and it's just like, I'm not going to allow that, we don't do that at all. And I thought that was really cool. I was like, wow, like this guy may be quote unquote a villain though, but he actually cares about his people. And it kind of made me question, and I say this a lot too, it made me question if if he was like if he was really the bad guy, and perhaps, or if he was really the bad guy, or if Rick Grimes was the bad guy perhaps, because Rick's group actually attacked his people. So it kind of puts into question, like, is he the bad guy or is it Rick?
Right.
So I mean that's another cool thing about the modern villain, I feel, is just the fact that they're not necessarily purely evil. I mean, you look at Darth Vader, even started out as a slave, started off as a kid wanting bigger dreams, and marries the girl of his dreams, only to find out that he sees a vision of her dying, and he's just manipulated, and it's just, man, so villains are, in my opinion, are just as flawed as heroes are, if not more so.
Yeah, there's so many interesting takes that you can do on villains that I just love. I did a comic book about villains because that's kind of what drew me as a kid. So
yeah, I mean, look at what some of the look at what Disney's been doing with Maleficent, for instance, or even Cruella de Vil. For I mean, they're coming out with that movie right now. Like, there's a new light on these villains. It's like, are they really bad? Like, what's their story? Because we always hear the story of the hero, but then we don't see it from the villain's point of view. Which I think is really interesting. I mean, actually, a graphic novel that I found was interesting, kind of in a similar vein, was the novel called Luthor. which was obviously based on Lex Luthor. And
Yeah.
you know, it made me see Lex Luthor in a little bit of a different light, because he's just seen as a guy who really loves Metropolis. He grew up in the city of Metropolis. Then along comes this dude in the red cape, Superman, and all of a sudden it's like they love him, and he's just like, wait a minute, after all I've done for Metropolis, you turn to this guy. And
Right.
you kind of can't help but agree with Luthor in a sense. Even though I'm a huge Superman fan, it's like, you know what, maybe maybe he's right,
Yeah. Or
and
you can at least see where the jealousy seed can come from,
you
where
can see
he's
where the
like,
jealousy comes
like
from. Yeah.
yeah, it's like I was here first, I was helping out, and then just this guy is easy and does everything easy, and it's like that's not this, you know.
Right, and it was written by, I think I want to say it was written by Brian Azzarello, who also I think he created Batman Damned, I want to say too.
Maybe I don't remember Batman Damned. I do remember Luthor, and I remember there was also a Joker one by like Lee. Oh no, I can't think of names. Now I'm doing just
Right?
like I
Some of
said,
this is
yeah,
blank,
Lee Bermeo. Yeah, I can't think of it. But those are some really interesting titles with villains in them I really liked.
Oh yeah, and yeah, for sure, man. And so Luthor was definitely a favorite of mine. And it's just like, wow, I didn't even know that about Lex Luthor. And even with Smallville too, he was played, awesome, really beautifully and awesome by Michael Rosenbaum, and you couldn't help but, feel sorry for him in a sense of what he had to go through with his dad, and it was just like, man, and then like, and even like you could even see that through Clark Kent, that Clark felt sorry for him too, but then ultimately that's how he became bad, was just the fact that he was so jealous of Clark Kent. He was like, oh, you have all this power, and it's just like, oh no,
Right.
Yeah, so, yeah, villains, yeah, I mean, I would really like to see your comic on villains.
Oh yeah. I'll send it to you. It's called Ultramax. We just did a Kickstarter not that long ago. See if I can get this on. And
There it is, Ultramax.
this one
Yeah, I
got
think I've
funded.
seen it.
Yeah. It's about supervillains and in prison. One guy like kills the world's most famous superhero. It's pretty. Was pretty proud of it. This is the issue 2.
Wow.
We're almost
That's an
finished with
epic
that.
looking cover.
Thank you. The artist Michael Pickard, he did that, and he's almost done with issue 2. We're gonna go through issue 4 because that's what we kickstarted for, and then we're gonna collect that and we're gonna send it out to all the backers and stuff like that. And then I'm also gonna be selling that hopefully at cons and stuff like that. So I'll get some copies for that.
Awesome. Man, speaking of the cons though, man, I mean, how about the whole COVID-19 pandemic, just like causing like a stoppage for almost all the cons? I mean, I was really bummed out because every year I go to Phoenix Fan Fusion, and
Okay.
when I heard that they were like, they were going to like, postpone it, I was like, oh no. And like for a while, they were going to actually do Phoenix Fan Fusion because it usually happens every May. They were going to do it like on September of 2020, but then that, kind of fell through. I was just like, gosh,
Yeah. I was so the week of Planet Comic Con in Kansas City, that's when they started
Yeah.
shutting things down. Because the week before that, they had Emerald City Comic Con, and people actually went to that.
People
So
went, yeah.
yeah, so then I set up some things to talk to some like editors and stuff like that, and try to see if people would like my book. And then that gal got canceled like days prior to the actual event. It's like I haven't got to go to an event as a creator yet, so that was going to be my first time, and I was just kind of excited to see how it went.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, I can imagine you being bummed out. It was just like, dude, I mean, like, here I am, just like, I worked hard for this, and then I'm gonna go to my first convention, and all of a sudden, it's
Yeah.
just, yeah, and like, I feel for the creators, and like, also, I remember too when I read like about Diamond taking a hit and like no longer being able to distribute comics, that was another one too. It was like, I felt like this pandemic really affected the industry, but I mean, I think the amazing thing about the comic book industry and what I've learned from what I've been reading about comic creators like Will Eisner and all that is just that the comic industry, it's had its share of ups and downs, so but it has survived. It's a survivor,
Right.
you know.
It's kind of cockroaches. It started to
It came
kill
from
them.
the Great Depression too, you
Yeah.
know. That's
Yeah.
another
Right.
thing. Like it was, you know, it's a fighter, and even in the 1990s, you know, like it was about to go, you know, boom, but or about to go down, but you know, somehow like it just fought back, you know.
Right.
And I think a lot of it, some of it had to do with like ingenuity, obviously, and you know, people like Stan Lee who are really, you know, huge marks for comics, and you know, just you know, and of course, like you know, there's people like us who are fans and who love them, you know, like no matter what, you know, we're always gonna, you know, want to read a comic, you know, yeah,
Hopefully, hopefully there'll still be audiences.
yeah,
All
definitely.
time.
I mean, comics, you know, in my opinion, like you know, again, the comic book industry is a survivor. It's a fighter, you know. Yeah, so people, you know, people love them and all that. So, let's see. So, we touch on a lot. Still looking at your anthology, and I see like another. What is your favorite story in this anthology?
Um, it's going to be kind of surprising to people, but my favorite story is called Before Morning. It's a story of a couple of people lucid dreaming, and them finding out that they both are in each other's dream, and where it goes from there. And the artist Javier Martin Cava, he does a really amazing job with the expressions and setting up this fantastical dream-like world. So I really like that comic.
That's really awesome, and yeah, with lucid dreaming and all, yeah, like lucid dreaming, you said.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really interesting like with lucid dreaming and all. I think I read a story once about this guy who dreamed of being like his younger self. I want to say, or talking to his younger self, and then like he would
Hmm.
tell him to do certain things, and then he would wake up and like, for instance, like, oh, go buy that CD that you always wanted, for instance, and then like he would wake up, and then like lo and behold, the CD that he always wanted was like right there, you know.
Wow.
Yeah, it's like yeah, like stories involving dreams are usually like really interesting ones and cool ones. Kind of like, you know, The Matrix too, and in a sense, you know, it's not really
Yeah.
dreaming per se, but in a sense, you know, I mean, being in the Matrix is sort of a dream.
Right. Right. I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, and then like of course you have Morpheus, and you know, who's I think was based on the Sandman in a sense.
Is that true? I didn't even know that.
Or was it the Sandman? I think it was like the no, Morpheus is more like the reader of dreams, I think, you know. I want to say that. I mean, I got brush on my mythology.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's cool. But yeah, so I mean, I'm looking this really brilliant anthology. Are you planning on making a volume 2 in the future?
uh, I haven't really talked to people yet. We'll just see. We'll see if this gets funded, then I can start talking to people and seeing if there's interest.
Right. Yeah, totally. And so right now you're funding this on Kickstarter, and
Right. We're already at
um,
a over 70%, which I'm pretty happy about on
that is
just 2 days of
awesome.
going. So,
And like, what are the perks for the Kickstarter?
so $15 can get people the digital copy. Um, $25 to get you the book itself. It's like I said, it's 300 pages. It's really nice and oh, side there we go, nice and thick. It's big, it's beefy. So I hopefully $25 gets you something that you really like. It's 24 stories, so there's a lot of variety. You may not like every single story, but I feel like you're gonna like a lot of them. The creators retain their rights, so these stories might come up somewhere else in a different Kickstarter from them, or maybe they're going to pitch it to another publisher and get it picked up. And so maybe you see it here first, and maybe you find a new favorite that'll be like an ongoing series. I thought that'd be really cool for people to do.
That's really awesome. And yeah, so we're gonna pretty much wrap up this podcast. Like, man, we covered this whole thing. So do you have the link to the Kickstarter?
I don't have it with me right this second, but it's on Kickstarter. Look up Project Big Hype. I think that's the URL that I put in there.
Let's see, maybe I can put it on the messaging board too.
Right now, as of today, we're like one of the featured projects on Kickstarter. They actually messaged me pre-launch to tell me that they would help me with promotion and be a project they love because they really liked what we were trying to do. So if you can't find it looking through Project Big Hype, then just go on the main page and it should be up there.
Okay, I think I found it. Okay, Project Big Hype. Yep, there it is. 28 more days to go, and you're already like pledged off like 6,000. Like that is amazing. Let's see. Oh, actually, no. Excuse me. $4,330. So that's still close. So that is still close.
Yeah, really close. Yep.
Yeah, cool. So let's see. You can get you can definitely, if you pledge $5 or more, you can get the PDF. 15 would be the digital copy, and let's see here, 25 or more, you're going to definitely get the physical copy. Then 35, you're also going to get a copy of Project Big Hype and the postcard of the art.
Yeah, there's different covers. Some of the stories got covers, and we're planning on printing those down and put them. And you maybe want to have little fun postcards you can send around, or you maybe make a little collage. It's fun to have around the house. So
that's awesome. Yeah, I'm looking forward to this coming out. I'm going to continue reading the stories and all that, and yeah, maybe I might do a review on some of them because I love reviewing stories like these and just studying like the meaning behind the stories and the art. So yeah, and plus it just helps me to learn more about comics. So
yeah, absolutely. That's what I try to do most of my time is just studying and learning, figuring out how to do it better.
All right, and Doug, where can we find you on social media?
I'm on Twitter at Doug A. Wood, and then the number 1. That's my Twitter account. Thank you so much for having me on.
It's my pleasure, man. Well, that's going to wrap it up. Constant listeners, thank you so much for listening to this segment. And as I always say, stay ever so awesome. This is Brian from Earth-16, signing out.